The roar of Nathan Steele's Harley-Davidson reverberated across the desolate highway as he cruised into the small town of Clearwater. The sunset had long since dipped behind the mountains, leaving only the sliver of twilight hanging in the sky. Clearwater wasn't much a barely-there town that existed just for the sake of existing, a place where time seemed to have forgotten. The small, dilapidated buildings seemed stuck in the past, and the smell of dust lingered in the air. Nathan had been on the road for days, and his muscles ached from the constant vibration of the bike beneath him. He didn't know exactly why he'd chosen Clearwater. It just felt like the kind of place where he could disappear for a while. The weight of his past had been growing unbearable. The memories from his years of military service, the faces of men he'd lost in the line of duty, haunted him like shadows he could never outrun. He needed to clear his mind, get some rest, and maybe, just maybe, find a quiet bar, drink a cold beer, and forget for a few hours. Club Station stood on the outskirts of town, its neon sign flickering weakly against the darkening sky. The bar looked as if it had been around since the 1970s and hadn't seen a proper coat of paint in decades. The faded sign promised cold beer, hot music, good company. Nathan doubted that last part, but he didn't care. He was here for one thing, and one thing only: solitude. He pulled his Harley into the gravel lot and parked near the edge, away from the cluster of motorcycles parked under the dim light. As he dismounted, he noticed the bikes more clearly. They weren't the average weekend riders or weekend warriors you'd see in a regular bar. These were heavily modified machines, scarred by the elements, but still radiating a menacing energy. He recognized the symbols painted on the gas tank's snake logos, coiled and ready to strike. This wasn't just any group of riders. These were the Vipers, a notorious gang with a long list of criminal activities: smuggling, extortion, and drug running. Nathan didn't flinch. He'd faced far worse in his days as a soldier. He'd learned to keep his head down and avoid trouble when he could, but he also knew how to fight when it came knocking. And tonight, it seemed, it was knocking. The bar's doors swung open as he stepped inside, and immediately, a thick cloud of cigarette smoke hit him. The dim lights illuminated a scene that could have been pulled straight from a low-budget action movie. The room smelled of stale beer and sweat, and the jukebox in the corner played an old country tune, its sound barely cutting through the boisterous laughter of the bikers at the back. Every single eye in the bar turned toward him as he crossed the floor, his boots silent on the worn wooden floor. He could feel their gazes digging into him, each one sizing him up, figuring out if he was a threat. Nathan didn't care. He had a job to do tonight, and it didn't involve getting involved with a gang of criminals. He found a seat at the far end of the bar, his back to the wall. He preferred it that way, military habit, and ordered a beer. The bartender, a skinny man with a scar running down his cheek, didn't ask any questions. He was used to strangers, especially in places like Clearwater. He just slid the bottle toward Nathan and went back to cleaning glasses. Nathan took a slow sip of his beer and scanned the room. A group of bikers were gathered around a pool table in the back corner. They were laughing too loudly, the sound grating on his nerves, but he ignored it. His mind drifted back to the days when he'd been a soldier, when every move he made was calculated, when he always had a plan. Those days felt like a lifetime ago. Now, he just wanted peace. A rough voice broke through his thoughts. "Nice bike out there." Nathan didn't look up. He knew exactly who it was. The wiry biker with tattoos snaking up his neck was staring at him, a look of suspicion and curiosity in his eyes. "Thanks," Nathan said flatly, his voice low. He didn't feel like talking, but he wasn't about to let the guy push him around either. The biker leaned in closer, the stink of whiskey on his breath. "You don't belong here," he sneered, his lips curling into a dangerous grin. "We don't take kindly to outsiders." Nathan's eyes flicked up, meeting the biker's gaze for the first time. "I'm just passing through," he said, his tone firm but calm. "Passing through, huh?" The biker stepped back, laughing loudly. His laughter was harsh, unsettling. "That's funny, 'cause you parked right next to our bikes. This ain't a tourist spot, pal. You're gonna pay your respects." Nathan's jaw tightened. He could feel the eyes of the entire bar on him now, the tension mounting like a slow-burning fuse. He wasn't looking for trouble, but this man wasn't giving him a choice. "Get your hands off me," Nathan said evenly. But the biker wasn't listening. The biker grabbed his shoulder, twisting him around. The force caught Nathan by surprise for a split second, but that was all he needed. In a move so fast, it was nearly invisible, Nathan's hand shot out, grabbing the biker's wrist and twisting it behind his back. The biker cried out in pain, dropping to his knees as Nathan forced him to the ground, slamming his face into the bar. "Next time you want trouble," Nathan said, his voice deadly calm, "don't bring it to me." The room fell silent. Even the jukebox seemed to stop playing for a moment. The bikers watched, some with fury, others with a strange respect. Nathan stood there, his expression unreadable. The bartender was standing behind the counter, his eyes wide, but he said nothing. Then the silence was broken by a deep, rumbling voice from the back of the bar. "Let him go." Nathan didn't need to turn around to know who it was. The voice belonged to Grizzly, the leader of the Vipers. He was massive, a bear of a man with a wild beard and tattoos that covered nearly every inch of his body. His presence filled the room like a storm cloud. Grizzly was notorious in Clearwater, feared by most, and respected by all. The Vipers were his family, and he didn't take kindly to anyone disrespecting them. Nathan didn't release the biker just yet. He took a moment, looking Grizzly over, then finally let the man go. The biker scrambled to his feet, clutching his bruised jaw, glaring at Nathan. Grizzly stepped forward, his eyes locked on Nathan's. "You think you're tough?" he sneered, his voice low and dangerous. "You think you can come in here and lay hands on one of my men and walk away unscathed?" "I'm not here to fight," Nathan replied, his tone even. "Your guy started it. I ended it." Grizzly smiled coldly, his teeth sharp in the dim light. "You've got balls, I'll give you that. But I'm not gonna let you walk out of here after disrespecting my crew." The bikers started to move, some reaching for pool cues, others picking up broken bottles from the ground. Grizzly's command was clear. They were going to make sure Nathan paid for what he'd done. Nathan could feel the heat of their hostility closing in, but he didn't flinch. He had faced worse than this. The Vipers may have thought they were in charge here, but Nathan wasn't the kind of man who backed down. Not when it came to a fight. The first biker lunged at him with a pool cue. Nathan sidestepped, grabbing the cue mid-swing and snapping it over his knee. He turned, and with one swift motion, he jabbed the broken end into the man's gut, sending him to the floor in a heap. Another came at him, this time with a broken bottle. Nathan ducked under the swing, his hand grabbing the man's wrist, twisting it so hard that the bottle fell to the ground. With a quick elbow to the side of his attacker's head, Nathan sent him stumbling backward, unconscious. The room erupted into chaos. Grizzly grabbed a bar stool and swung it at Nathan with all his might. Nathan dodged the attack, catching the stool mid-air and tossing it aside with ease. He was faster, sharper. Every move he made was calculated, each strike more precise than the last. Snake, Grizzly's second in command, pulled out a knife and came at Nathan, his movements quick and savage. Nathan didn't hesitate. He blocked the first slash, disarming Snake with a twist of his arm. The knife flew from his hand, landing across the room with a clatter-dot, one by one. The bikers fell. Some crumpled under the weight of Nathan's blows, others just didn't have the stomach to fight back. When it was over, Nathan stood amidst the wreckage, his breathing steady. He had taken on more than a dozen men, and not a single one of them had even come close to landing a blow. Grizzly was still standing, blood dripping from his lip. "You've got guts, I'll give you that," he muttered, glaring at Nathan through narrowed eyes. But this isn't over. The Vipers never forget. Nathan didn't respond. Instead, he walked toward the door, his boots echoing in the now silent room. Before he could leave, he turned back once more. "You should have known better," he said simply. "Stay down, or next time, it'll be worse." With that, he stepped out into the night, the cool air hitting him like a breath of fresh air. The roar of his Harley's engine broke the silence as he sped off into the night, ready for whatever came next.